Our guest speakers, it's really wonderful because other years we've had people come back like Drew Houston. We had the Kiva Systems team here, who was a lot of love for Kiva Systems. I didn't know your parents came to these types of things. We had Mitch Kapor, who founded Lotus 123, Paul English. Last year we had Shireen Telegani Yates, who founded Nema Systems. She was in one of the very first ones. I am extremely proud that this year we have, from our 2015 demo day, the Spyce Boys. So let me break. 2015. That is not that long ago. And I'll never forget when they first came into my office. There were 4 guys, and a guy named Billy Evans said, "You need to meet with these guys. They have a company." And they came to my office, and they looked at me, and I said, "Okay, what's your company?" And they said, "We're going to build a robot to cook food." And I said, "That's an interesting project. What's your company?" And they said, "We're going to build a robot to cook food." And I said, "A business needs a customer. You don't have any customers, therefore you don't have a business." And they just looked at me and I'm like, "Old man, are you going to give us money to build a robot or not?" And I said, "Look, I'll give you some money to build your robot," which they did, and they're going to tell you about, if you take a course in entrepreneurship. And they kind of looked at each other. And I didn't know this, but they're all water polo players. How many of you know what water polo is? So I didn't. I went to a public high school. And I didn't understand, like, water polo. And water polo players are, like, super aggressive. Like, they look like they're above water, kind of treading, and then they're kicking each other and doing all these violent things under the water. And these guys are great. They are very, very focused on winning. And they're focused on winning as a team. And so from 2015, here was their project that they did, and they fed people after 2015 demo day, which in hindsight, if we had a law school, we would never have done that. But think about that for a second. But it was fabulous, and they won over people, and they got a whole bunch of people to support them. And since then, it has just been a rocket. You can go back and look on the website and see their original presentation, and their business has changed significantly, but not that much compared to most of them. And today they're here to tell you the story of from where they were to where they are today. And for those of you who don't know, as of today, they have just raised $21 million. And they didn't just raise $21 million from anybody. They raised $21 million from a guy named Howard Schultz, who started a venture fund. And Howard Schultz did pretty well. He was the founder of Starbucks. And so they have been able to, you're going to hear their story and how they've been able to not only progress, but progress by getting the top quality people in the world to work with them. So it's my unbelievable pleasure to welcome the Spyce Boys back to the stage here at Delta V Demo Day. Bring it on, Spyce Boys.
At Spyce, we set out to create a new style of restaurant. We wanted to bring amazing meals to people at a more affordable price point.
Each meal is made to order in 3 minutes or less, starting at $7.50.
When we were 4 MIT students, we couldn't really find a decent meal at an affordable price point.
As robotics-obsessed engineers, we set out to create a new, efficient way of cooking food.
From our humble starts in our fraternity basement, we developed a prototype that really sort of proved we could build something that can create delicious, high-quality meals.
Our woks cook by constantly tumbling your food, which provides a really nice and even sear. They're heated with induction, and we have temperature control to perfectly cook your meal every time.
When we had the robotics nailed down, we knew we needed some culinary excellence to really bring this restaurant concept to life.
I'd heard of Danielle, and I knew that he was one of the top chefs in the world, and I decided to try to guess his email address. A few weeks later, I got a response.
Receiving this note from Michael, I was curious. A robotic kitchen was something that puzzled me a little bit. I needed to come to Boston. I discovered that the robotic kitchen brings precision, consistency, taste, and also freshness to the preparation. To complete the team, Spyce needed an executive chef. And I found in Sam Benson his experience with me as executive sous chef at Café Boulu, also his experience in fast casual, was a very good fit.
Danielle and I, we're taking a very vegetable-focused menu, complex, delicious, and nutritious meals, being able to transfer it to the Spyce Robotic Kitchen.
Spyce was created to be affordable, tasty, and nutritious.
I really hope that our customers will leave feeling that they've gotten a delicious, exciting, and amazing meal at a really affordable price point.
Hi, my name is Cale Rogers, and along with my 3 MIT buddies,
Hey, I'm Brady.
Luke,
And I'm Michael.
we are the co-founders of Spyce. Yes, we are the Spyce Boys. Our story starts in a wayward fraternity basement on Boston's Beacon Street. As you saw, our company started out of a need that we had. We couldn't get a good meal at an affordable price. So what did we do? We got to work and started building a robotic kitchen in this tiny fraternity basement.
I actually have the best seat in the house. I have my own desk. Problem is, it's inside of our prototype.
And I'm not in this picture because I was sitting on top of the bunk bed taking it, so.
It was fun. But I'm going to start today's story off and the subsequent lessons that we all learned right from where you companies are at today, our 2015 demo day. Demo day for us went great. Michael nailed the presentation.
Thank you, Kel.
You're welcome, Michael. We served food to people, and overall, people were really interested in what we were doing, so we decided to keep going. And the next step was for us to test in front of customers. The only problem was we weren't very good cooks.
Michael couldn't really boil a piece of toast.
Sorry, exactly, he couldn't. But we ended up finding a co-working space. We ran a pilot, and people liked it. But as we began to cook and eat and serve guests more, we thought to ourselves that we could do better. So we decided to do what any normal group would do and reach out to one of the top chefs in the world, Danielle Boulu. The only problem was we had no way of contacting Danielle. So we guessed his email address.
We actually guessed 5 email
Guessed
addresses.
5 email addresses.
We sent 5 emails.
And somehow he replied and was excited enough to come visit us in our co-working space in Boston and invite us then to New York to discuss in more detail. There he surprised us with a Michelin star meal. It was sweet. But this moment was actually extremely powerful for us. For the first time, we really discovered the power of food. That a simple bite of perfection can change you. After that meal, Danielle became an investor and our culinary director, and that moment was pivotal for us. Before, we had been 4 MIT dudes making a food robot, and now we were a restaurant company providing access to quality meals. Food and the culture of food began to seep into our company DNA, and overall, it was great.
You guys should see Michael's boiled toast now. It's amazing.
It's pretty delicious.
Thanks.
We had to learn, as I'm sure all of you companies have learned, will learn, need to learn, that we were not a technology company. We were a restaurant company, and we simply needed to understand the business that we were in.
So, we finished MIT, the demo day, but we still had to build a robot and a restaurant. And to be honest, we really didn't know what we were doing. We had 24 months to go from wooden prototype to opening day. It's selfie. Yeah, and there was lots of things that we had to learn. One of those things was industrial design. And being engineers, we didn't really have a lot of experience doing that. This was our first crack at it.
So we actually tried experimenting with some lighting, but while festive, it wasn't quite what we were going for.
We soon realized that while we could make something that was functional, we had a hard time not making it look like a big gray box. So we reached out to some people who could help us learn how to do industrial designing, how to design a robot that was enticing, that looked like it belonged in a restaurant. Not only did we have to build a robot, we also had to build our brand. And again, didn't really know how to do that. But one important part of that brand, as you guys all know, is the logo. You make an awesome logo, you get your T-shirts, and boom, you're a real company.
100%.
And this was our first crack at it. We liked it. We thought it was pretty good. Up until someone told us, hey, that kind of looks like the hair of an evil supervillain.
Or kale.
So we scrapped that logo. We talked to some of our more design-minded friends and came up with something that was a bit neater, a bit cleaner. And we had this logo for a long time. We liked it. We dug it. We got our T-shirts. It was official. We were a real company.
And then we thought, hey, we need a logo that doesn't look like a tech company. We found that this logo, instead of saying, hey, come try our food out, it kind of said a little more like, hey, can I help you find a date tonight?
So again, we talked with some people who knew a bit more about branding, and were able to develop a logo that looked like it fit more a restaurant company. And not only that, we found we were able to develop some branding guidelines and touch points to back that up. Now, industrial design and branding were not things that we learned in school, but they were and still are vital to our company. So whatever your company's challenges might be confident in your ability to learn new skills. Nobody knows every aspect of their business when they get started, but don't be afraid to dive in and figure it out.
Now, on to album 2, or season 2 of the Spyce record. We got the technology to a point that it was roughly working. Would you say it was working?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
It worked okay. So we signed a lease for our first restaurant location. We got started on construction. This is a pretty nerve-wracking time for all of us. First time putting out a product into the real world. First time building an industrial machine to be put in a restaurant setting. Eventually, the robot was complete, and we hit go, and lo and behold, a meal came out of it. This is our first ever robot-cooked meal in the restaurant. See, at this point, I was thinking, okay, let's get 3 months of testing under our belts.
I wanted to do 3 weeks of testing.
See, that made me pretty nervous. So, like all good teams do, we went back and forth quite a bit. Kale wanted to do 3 months of testing. I wanted to do 3 weeks of testing. We settled on a compromise. It was going to be 3 weeks of testing. And I kid you not, this is Kale and I in the restaurant just a few days after the robot cooked its first meal. And Kale's on the phone with the press letting them know that we'd be opening in 3 weeks. Notice the restaurant doesn't exactly look ready to go here.
It was ready.
Regardless, we started getting some pretty good press, which would have been really exciting had I not been more nervous than I'd ever been in my entire life. The 3 weeks flew by, and before we knew it, it was the night before opening day. Pretty much didn't sleep, and I tell you how I felt that morning, except it's better depicted by this Snapchat I took the morning of launch. Yeah, we were really confident. And actually, launch went great. The opening day went really well, and the subsequent days also went really well. And it sort of made me come to realize that as much as I resent how optimistic Kale is all the time, it's actually been to an enormous benefit to have both an optimist, Kale, and a pessimist, myself, on the team, since we balance each other out. Kale makes sure we drive our timeline forwards, while I make sure we stay grounded and don't set a target that we can't hit.
And Brady and I get stuff done.
Brady, yeah. Thank you, Luke. See, I forgot my line now.
I'll help you.
I think every good team should have an optimist and a pessimist. I think an overly optimistic team will drink its own Kool-Aid and will set milestones and targets that are impossible to achieve, while an overly pessimistic team won't really commit or accomplish anything.
Thank you, Sensei, for that very sage advice.
No problem.
But really, like this dichotomy, it did really help us accomplish our dream to open up our own restaurant. We set up balloons. We invited the Boston Downtown Brass to serenade our waiting customers. And by the time we opened, we had a line of about 50 people anxious to try our food. And like Michael said, the opening day went great. We were packed all day. People were really enjoying the food and experience that we were able to create for them. And most importantly, from my view, and I'm sure shared by everyone else, the robot didn't have any major bugs on that first day. And it wasn't until we were closing that night that reality kind of struck us. And around midnight, after we'd gone through the normal closing procedures of drinking champagne and cheesy toasts by Kale,
Happens every day.
that we realized we would need to be back in 8 hours to do it all over again. And again, and again for the next 10 years of our lease. So fast forward 3 weeks, and we were, still stoked, still loving it. Just kidding, we were exhausted. Kale is sleeping like a baby right now. And so it was hard, but we quickly realized that what we were doing, it wasn't sustainable. And that leads us to the last point that we'll leave with you guys tonight, and that is to trust your team. While you may think that you're the best person to do the job, oftentimes this isn't the case. And even when it is, that's not a sustainable way to grow and scale your business. So you need to learn how to build and surround yourself with a team that can grow with you and help your company turn into the success that you as co-founders already see it to be. So, in summary, since I know everyone is taking very studious notes and is going to write them down, stick them in your wallet, pin it up on your mirror, I figured we'd throw these up one last time just so that I can hear all this pencil scratch. So, understand the business that you're in, be confident in your ability to learn, don't drink and drive, and most importantly, trust your team. And before we leave, Kale, myself, and Michael actually wanted to share one last thing, and that is to take copious amounts of funny, embarrassing photos of all of your co-founders so that you can use them in presentations 3 years later in front of hundreds of people. Thank you.
Thank you.